What's up, everyone? My name is Blue, and we are back with some more malicious compliance posts. These people are taking the rules and throwing them back in the faces of the people who set them down. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to the channel. And with that, let's get into it. STDs are cheaper than PhDs. I work for a company that, among other things, does security testing and verification of hardware that has strict security requirements. Think payment terminals or chips in credit cards or set-top boxes. Given this is a niche market and requires a lot of expertise, expensive equipment, and knowledge, our rates are high. The day rate for me could buy you an entire weekend with a high-class escort, as the client in this story once told me. But we have a stellar reputation in the industry to go above and beyond for clients, and are still cheaper than your product shipping late or never. Most customers understand this. Large and established clients know the cost and don't ever mention it to me. I have to check with the account manager to see how much he sold me for this time around. But we also serve smaller clients, startups or smaller companies that move into manufacturing or designing custom components or products that require our services as well. The company in question was a small company in Korea that made most of their money with a few legacy components used in alarm systems, among others. They had a monopoly on these components because larger manufacturers had since moved on, because for them, the economics did not make sense anymore. This smaller company had made it work for a few years longer, but already saw the end coming and started working on a new version of the component. Problem was that most of their capable staff had since left, and the product they had been designing for the past year was, in itself, an achievement for how broken and insecure it was. But the owner of the company, who was the grand architect of this masterpiece, did not see it that way. This product was great and would pass all certifications and allow his company to rake in cash for another 20 years. I didn't know any of this going in. The account manager sold me on a run-of-the-mill job. Upon first day of review of the product, I found so many simple issues that I stopped the review and sat down with the client and account manager to talk about changing the assignment to better serve their needs and make them actually pass certification on the first try. This often happens with smaller clients that don't always know the process to certification and find themselves lost in the process and the strict requirements. We generally take a more practical approach to helping them out. As their end goal is certification, it makes sense to focus on solving the issues instead of spending 2 weeks on a report stating they have issues. While at first, he was open to it and we changed 2 weeks of testing and reporting to me helping them getting things sorted. That way, they might be able to hit their deadline with a more secure, albeit lower rated, component. But he quickly invited himself into every conversation I had with an engineer, as he was the grand architect, and belittled me continuously, mostly ending with sexist remarks. I've learned to ignore the occasional comment by men in my field by now, sometimes being witty and fast enough to sling a hurtful comment back to them. But the grand architect of sexism actually started getting under my skin by how often he did it in just one 20-minute conversation. Surely continuously being sexist must even wear him out, right? Halfway during the week, he suddenly brought in a potential new customer while I was working, not having mentioned it to me. I think because the company I work for is well known in the industry, he tried to put me on the spot with the customer to tell him how secure the product is, thinking the situation would make me just say the product was great to not create an incident. I said to come back later because I am doing very time-sensitive testing, and they luckily never came back. If he had pushed it, I would have probably said something to the effect of, "Secure? Not at all. That's why I am here." I cannot lie about findings. It's my reputation, and consequences be damned. At the end of the week, we had an update meeting, and Mr. Sexist only now told me that he changed his mind. He wanted nothing changed to product anymore, me gone, and a report on his desk by next week he can share with the certification body. He was able to get an earlier slot for review and was going to use it. The product was fine, and he was done with me. After a short argument with me staying professional and trying to tell him he was only going to pass at a barely medium level with the fixes we put in over the last week, he told me that he would be fine enough and to shut my mouth. I was a bee who talked too much and knew nothing of this field he was already in for 40 years. During the conversation, saying that the escort he slept with 2 weekends ago was cheaper than my day rate, and she actually satisfied him. I had heard this one before, so without thinking, told him something to the effect of, "STDs are cheaper than PhDs." He lost it and told me I was to write the required report for certification on the current product and nothing else. He did not want to see me at the office anymore. I said, "Sure. I will send you an official request to provide me the documents. Be sure to upload them as soon as you can so I can get on with it, and you'll get the report in the mail before end of day Friday next week." Unbeknownst to him, the fixes I put in over the week only existed in files on the local notebooks of the engineers. Most companies have proper version tracking/syncing software and workplace rules in place to handle this. But this company didn't, and only one engineer had added the changes to the main design documents during the week. So, the official documents that got sent to my company that evening were the files from before I had added fixes with the engineers, with only 2 minor fixes that made it in but were insignificant in the slew of issues in this product. Normally, I would double-check with the client and inform them about missing documents and the like. But he had clearly said in the email that these were the correct files. Sure, if you say so. Enter my malicious compliance. I wrote the report based on the current documentation, but every item on the checklist would color red with a big fat fail in the results column. He gets his report on Friday, and within the hour was on the line with my account manager, who I had told everything. He had his own issues with the client, and he was on board with me because he knew me for years and I had a stellar record with dozens of his other clients. And he basically told him that his attitude caused review problems, and he himself had insisted these were the correct files he wanted reviewed. In the weeks after, there were some threats about lawsuit, but with us backing out on helping them further, given non-payment and the threat of lawsuits, his company never put out the product, and 2 months later was bought for cheap by one of our other clients in part of a talent acquisition. The employees were fine engineers. They just did not have the particular skill set they needed for this component. The client who bought them paid our outstanding bills without any issue. After making use of our connections there, got them to sell us the rights and design documents for this particular component in exchange for a week of training. It had no value to them, and given the costs of our training, it was a bargain as far as they were concerned. As broken as the product was, it was too good to pass up for training purposes because of the myriad of basic mistakes in it. I had already written half the training material in the report for it anyway. I still give training from time to time with it, detailing all the wrong ways of doing things. You know, I love seeing people get a lesson in not being sexist and not being stubborn. Someone's always better than you at something. Just accept it. And that's all the time we have today for these malicious compliance posts. If you liked any of the stories, make sure to click that like button, and if you have anything to say about them, make sure to let us know in the comments down below. Also, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any more stories. Thanks for listening, everyone. Catch you later.